Hi there, for those of you that saw my previous video, I will be addressing that, and for those of you that have not yet seen my previous video, go and watch it. I'll give you a moment. Anyways, for those of you that have watched my previous video, you would know that this thing left me up on top of a mountain. And I believe I did mention in the video, I was down to half an engine. It was only running on 2 cylinders on each bank. And I lost my tacho. Some of you might already know what went wrong. Yes, my top coil pack blew. Well, it stopped working, and then I started it up, tried to drive it down a bit further down the mountain. Didn't get very far, and then it exploded in a very dramatic fashion. Might not look like the explosion was very dramatic, but I can assure you it was indeed very dramatic. I immediately got on the radio, guys, that's not steam, that's not steam. The guy that was 2 cars back came up with a fire extinguisher. The guy that was in front of me came up front to me, open the bonnet, open the bonnet. It was fun. So yeah, now that you all know what went wrong, I will now tell you that I won't be fixing it in this video because I still need to go and buy the spare parts. But yeah, while I am busy replacing that coil, whenever I do get the spare parts, I'll also go ahead and replace the bottom coil just to be safe. My working theory for as to why this thing exploded was, well, 2 days before we went wheeling, I blew that radiator hose right there, and it got steam and water in everywhere, and obviously these coil packs do not like water, and that's what caused its premature death. Some other people are also theorizing, some other people that I spoke to are also theorizing that might be because of my ECU as well. So that's interesting. So yeah, bonnet is closed. That's a problem for a later date. Because quite frankly, I'm a bit sick of fixing all the time. So I will be spending this video doing something a bit more fun. And that would be getting this thing mounted up. And this is the inclinometer/altimeter out of a Nissan GQ Patrol. And this was gifted to me by a friend because, well, he wanted to use it, but it was the wrong color for his interior, but the right color for mine. And yes, I do already have an inclinometer in this vehicle, but this one's better. But not only is this better than that, this also goes there. And I do believe that we can all agree on the fact that overhead gauges and overhead switches are cool. They are very cool. Problem is, with this foot piece of my rear view mirror, well, obviously that sits there, it sort of gets in the way of mounting that thing. So, since my dome light already doesn't work, I don't mind having to sacrifice it. The dome light, not the rear view mirror, that's sort of important. But this is also still in very good condition, so I don't really quite want to butcher a pristine car part. That would just be stupid. So, I went and found this one. It was lying around the garage. You can no longer put a light or anything inside of it. It's completely stripped. It's a bit sun faded, but luckily I won't see that because that's the only part I need, the base. So the plan is to take this base, trim it down to size so that it would fit in between that gap, and then transplant that mirror onto that base after modifying that base to work with that thing, so that that and that can go there. Luckily, disassembling this thing is a very simple process. There's this little screw right there. You remove it, and then the mirror simply pops out. So with this thing taken apart, it's just a matter of going up to the bench grinder and making it smaller. Now please don't come at me in the comments for the state in which this workbench is. I do not live here. This is not my workbench. I just occasionally visit. And now this is what I am left with. Now, I did not trim it down all the way because I still wanted it to have a decently big footprint for it to clamp onto its original mounting bracket that is on the roof. The extra overhang also helps stabilize the little brackets that I made so I can actually mount the inclinometer to this. These being the brackets in question. And yes, these are very much just pieces of old Meccano that I slightly modified to make them work. And honestly, Meccanos are a very underrated little thing to use to modify your car, because instead of having to make a mounting tab, you just have them. And you need to make the holes a little bit bigger and do a little thing here and a little thing there, but they're so quick and easy to use when you need to make small mounting tabs for something like this. And fun fact, this entire center console is held in place with the same Meccano fasteners. But enough of that for now. Let's move on to the actual inclinometer itself. Because as with any good instrument panel, this lights up, which inevitably means that you need to do some wiring. And normally in a GQ Patrol, this thing would earth right there against the body where it mounts to the roof. But as you can see, I did some light surgery and found the actual earth cable, disconnected it from where it was fastened to that plate, and now it's out here. So I've got my ground, and I've got my I can't remember which one is negative and positive. The black, negative, red, positive. So here I've got my negative and positive wires. And even though this Hilux came with a very Spartan interior from factory, at least it came equipped with a dome light. So I will just be utilizing these wires to give power to the inclinometer. The only modification I will have to do is to trace those wires back to where they go into the loom and change their power source. And the reason I need to change the power source is because I want this thing to go on when I, well, turn my lights on. And we all know that that is simply not how dome lights work. So yeah, now I do believe I've got everything that I need together and everything is sorted. Now I just need to assemble everything and get it ready to actually go inside the vehicle. So I've realized I need to do some slight modification and trimming right about there to make sure that the wires have somewhere to go through. That looks so good. Oh my word. And it's not going anywhere. It's sturdy. Okay, so I've managed to find the power wires. It's that little plug with the red dot on it right there. Now I need to disconnect that thing and take those power wires right there and somehow connect these to there.
Epilogue.
Okay, that might have gotten a bit out of hand, but I found the power wire. Success. And with that, I am done for the day. The lighting is very bad. I can hardly see what I'm doing, so that's just a recipe for disaster. I'm going to just leave everything as it is at the moment and pick up where I left off tomorrow morning. Okay, so it's the next day. It's cloudy, so the lighting in there sucks, but it's time I get that inclinometer wired up because I cannot wait to see it lit up. As you can see, I've got the dashboard mostly put back together again. I've got the power wire from my old inclinometers right there, so I can extend it with that wire right there all the way up there, obviously behind the dash so it's out of sight, all the way around there to there where it will go into the harness and then travel all the way up the A-pillar, down there and into that thing. Now, as I've mentioned before, there is the power feed to the new inclinometer, and that would be, that plug right there would be the power feed for the old dome light. It doesn't work anyways, but I will be reusing that plug, just cutting it off, crimping it onto the new power feed for the inclinometer, well, crimping it onto these wires so it will feed power to the inclinometer, and then, well, it will work. So I've got everything wired up. So as you can see, it's going from there to there. I just used some ferrules. I'm not in the mood to do soldering today. And now that thing should simply just work because it's getting power from where this thing used to get power and this thing used to work. Also, I did have the foresight of doing a continuity check on that thing first, and it passed. So there should be at least one thing working inside of that unit. So yeah, let's check it. I don't need the keys. Okay. This on. Now I tried making it darker in here. As you can see, I put the shade on there, closed the door, turned off the light, all that jazz, because you guys just need to get a proper look at that thing. Okay. Lights on. As you can see, my dash lights are still original, still the original green. Those lights are also green, and that's green as, oh, it's missing a light. Now I've got this thing taken apart and I've already gone and removed the little light bulb. And an easy way to check whether or not a light bulb has blown is to do a continuity check on it. So I've got my little 99 Rand multimeter here. Turn it down to that little symbol right there, the siren symbol. That's the continuity check symbol. And then you just sort of do the continuity check. Don't mind the dog. Let's continue. I don't know if you could hear that, but that was a vague beeping noise, which means that this bulb is still good. That's good. That was actually a bit of a stroke of luck, because I stole the bulb out of an old cluster, one of two clusters I have actually, from that thing. That's my old 81 liftback, one of them that I've got. That was supposed to be a parts donor for that thing over there when I was actually restoring it. But then it's a whole can of worms and shit, but that's not getting restored anymore, and that thing's probably getting cut up for scrap. I stole the light from that cluster right there. There are so many spare parts in here. I think I should make some time tomorrow to sort out those spares, clean them up and put them all in storage before we cut that thing up. I don't want to throw away all those spares. There's quite a bit of money in that thing. Anyways, back to the light bulbs. As you can see, this one is clear and this one is not. Luckily, that's an easy fix, because these bulbs that emit the colored light, and especially in the older vehicles, just have little gels over them, like little condoms. But they do get a bit brittle and a bit soft over time, so you need to ever so slightly, using all of the patience that you have within you, remove them and place them onto the new bulb, which I will now attempt. Go. There's that removed. Now just got to pop that onto the new bulb. And voila! Now that should work. A charm. I may or may not have forgotten to press record, but the inclinometer is back in the vehicle. Now we get to test if my repair has worked. It should work. Those are now on. Now it's worked. Safe to say I won't be missing this thing at all. Now there's just one more thing to address in this video, and that is that bumper desperately needs a lick of paint. So I need to remove it, clean it, degrease it just to make sure the paint has something to stick to, and maybe give it a little bit of a sand down just to make sure the paint adheres to the surface. And then I've got to put it back on. So that is how the bumper looks. I think maybe sometime in the future I just need to go in somewhere and just have some extra strengthening welded in here, like a bit of triangulation from here connecting to there, like a 20mm or 30mm tube, just to make sure that this part, especially with how much leverage it has, is resistant to bending, because that would suck. But I'm gonna paint it as it is anyways, because I really do not want that thing rusting. I'm gonna let that chill for a second to let it dry. And while I wait for that thing to dry, I gotta address another problem. There's always something with this car, hey? Hello. Now, the previous owner had the old bumper welded onto the chassis rail, so that burr right there, well, it remains. And it's in the way. It makes it a bit difficult to get my new bumper aligned properly. So I'm just gonna go with a grinding wheel and make it nice and flat again on both sides. Luckily this side isn't quite as bad, but I still need to clean that up. Probably just need to get this jalopy out of the way. I don't exactly want the sparks flying onto it. Remember kids, wearing PPE is cool. Now that actually took some doing. I hope the person that welded these bumpers on gets a cramp in a nondescript place of his body. But yeah, now I get to do the other side. But I think I'm going to use some editing magic, so it might take me about 20 minutes, but for you guys, it will be like that. And finally, that's done. Now, just before I put the bumper on, obviously those spots now need some time to cool down. I'll hit them with a lick of self-etching paint just to make sure they don't rust, and then that should be good. I reiterate, I hope the person that welded that bumper on gets a cramp in the most uncomfortable place fathomable. Now I just need to wipe this down with some paper towel wherever I touch it with my bare hands. That's just to make sure that the oils and residue from my hands don't interfere with the paint adhesion process. And as per usual, I'll be using my favorite, Rust-Oleum Rust Reformer. Now this is essentially a self-etching primer which you can paint over rust. So obviously that's going to work perfect for painting that bumper. And it's also what I consider good practice to keep at least one can of this in and around the garage when you're working with old cars, because if you just find a little rust spot or a little bit of corrosion or just end up making a little piece of exposed metal, just it with this and then you're sorted. It'll stop the rust, it'll keep it from rusting. It's good stuff, this. And of course, don't forget to shake the shit out of it, because if you don't, it won't work. And if it does work, but you did not shake it like you should, it will eventually stop working because it will lose pressure. So yeah, you gotta shake it as per the instructions. Okay, so you join me, and it's the next day. Not much to it. The paint's had some time to dry overnight. I've already painted the bare metal spots on the chassis. I've mounted the little plate for Northern Off-Road who built the bumper for me. But it's about high time I get that thing back on that thing. And with that done, I can finally get this hoodie in the wash and get back to studying for my midterms. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick little video, just a couple of things that I did over the weekend. I'll see you guys in the next one, and let me know down in the comments what you guys would like to see more of. Cheers.